In today's video, I'm going to tell you 5 things you should avoid doing when you're derm rolling. Stay tuned. Hey my fellow follicle frontiersmen, it's DJ from Carrots Brotherhood. Welcome back to the channel. The first thing you want to avoid doing when you're derm rolling is you want to avoid pressing too hard with the derm roller. Meaning you're not going to get in there and just start digging with the derm roller. You're not trying to punish your scalp with the derm roller. You just want to make sure that when you put it there, you're using enough pressure to get the needles to penetrate the scalp. You'll know if it's penetrating because you'll feel pricking sensation or like a burning sensation depending on the needle length. What you don't want to do is you don't want to like jab and like really dig the derm roller into your scalp, particularly if you're using a longer gauge needle, like a 1.5 millimeter or like even a 2 millimeter if you're crazy enough to use that. Try not to use too much pressure. If you notice that the derm roller doesn't feel like it's penetrating, maybe you have longer hair or maybe you have thicker hair, and you notice that maybe like a 0.5 millimeter is not penetrating the way you want it to, perhaps considering increasing the needle gauge to like a 1 millimeter instead of a 0.5. Maybe the 0.5 is just not long enough to penetrate the scalp, right? On the other hand, the second thing you should avoid doing is not using enough pressure. If you're one of those people that are fearful of needles or you're like pain adverse, you might sit there and gingerly roll the derm roller, and what'll happen is the needles don't even penetrate the scalp, and that's not going to do anything for you. You're not going to stimulate any collagen production without actually causing damage to the skin. You'll know if you're using enough pressure because you'll notice that the skin will begin to turn red, or you might even draw blood depending on the gauge of the needle. But you definitely would see redness. So if you don't see any redness, perhaps you're not using enough pressure. Finding the balance between enough pressure and not enough pressure takes time, but once you get it, it's so easy. Now the third thing you want to avoid doing when derm rolling is not cleaning the derm roller properly before and after using it. When you clean the derm roller, what you want to do is you want to make sure you spray it with alcohol, and spray it before you use it, and then also spray it after you use the derm roller. Now if you want to, if you have like blood or maybe you have like dead skin, or things like caught up in the needles, don't use tap water. Don't put it under the sink and use tap water to clean it, because remember, these needles are penetrating your skin and you really don't want to have to deal with any bacteria or any kind of germs that come with the tap water. So what I recommend doing, get you some purified water. If you really want to use water to clean your derm roller, pour it over the derm roller, and then you can kind of get the, dislodge some of the debris that might be caught up in the needles. And then after you let that dry, make sure you spray it again with alcohol and then store it back in the container for the next time you use it. If you're using like a 0.5 millimeter, the chance of you actually putting bacteria into your skin is really, really low because you're not penetrating beyond the epidermis. But once you start getting to the longer gauge needles, like a 1.5 millimeter, you're actually going to start penetrating near the base of the epidermis and even into the dermis, the second layer of the skin. You don't want any germs or bacteria to penetrate into that part of your skin because you could end up with some infections and you don't want to have to deal with that. The fourth thing you want to avoid doing when derm rolling is you want to avoid any kind of acne. Okay, you don't want to roll acne for obvious reasons, right? If you have acne, go around the acne. Now it's common that some guys will get acne, like sometimes I get acne on my scalp. You might pop it or you may not pop it, whatever you do. Imagine taking the derm roller and rolling over the acne, and then that pus is now stuck on the needles and you're rolling those needles over other areas of your skin. What do you think's gonna happen? Okay, you're gonna end up with a breakout that you caused. All right, and trust me, you don't want to do that. I've never had the experience of doing that because I've been cognizant enough to know that I shouldn't roll over the acne. But if you notice that you have a pimple or something like that, don't roll it, guys. Just go around it. And if the acne is just unavoidable, then perhaps just wait before you derm roll. Wait till the acne clears up a bit before derm rolling, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to cause yourself to have pimples break out all over your head. And the fifth thing that you should definitely avoid doing when derm rolling is applying minoxidil directly following the derm rolling session. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, there are some YouTubers who actually promote using minoxidil while derm rolling, either before, during, or after the derm rolling session. And the reason why it's recommended you shouldn't do that is because you allow the minoxidil to diffuse into the skin faster and enter your bloodstream faster than it would otherwise do just on the surface of your scalp. If you're sensitive to minoxidil, then you could start experiencing some of the systemic side effects. That includes heart palpitations, fatigue, dark circles, and in serious cases, you could experience a condition called hypertrichosis, where you'll start noticing abnormal hair growth on areas of your body that hair shouldn't be growing. So if you look at this picture here, you can see for one of the research studies about minoxidil, that this girl actually experienced hypertrichosis as the minoxidil went systemic, and she started growing hair on her face and on her arms abnormally. Now, in my non-professional opinion, I don't think that it's very likely that you would experience any systemic side effects. Most people just won't because they're not sensitive to minoxidil to that extent. But why risk it? Right? You don't want to yeah, I'm gonna put it on right after and then wake up the next day and you look like Wolfman. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration. But you don't want to have to put yourself at risk to have that side effect. You're like, well, if I had to apply minoxidil twice a day and I have to dermaroll once in like 24 hours, what am I supposed to do? Guys, minoxidil has a half-life of about 22 hours. So even if you miss a dose or two, within that 22-hour window, the minoxidil is still active in your system. So if you're worried about losing efficacy of minoxidil because you're taking a break from using it because you need to dermarol, don't worry so much, all right? Just pick it up 24 hours later and continue your regimen, okay? So that's the 5 things you should avoid when you're dermarolling. My name is DJ from Keratin Brotherhood. I'll see you guys in the next video.